This channel is supported by Truefire. Truefire is an online library
enough, you can get the Truefire All Access Pass for as cheap as they ever do it, the $99 thing. So just jump and do that if you're looking for the best price you can get Truefire All Access for. Years ago, I put together a spreadsheet of like gear and bits and pieces. I think it was at a time when I was thinking about trying to get a mortgage or something like that, or basically was in a situation, sorry, I've not had much sleep, but I was in a situation where we needed to either, you know, I think it was a mixture of things. So like moving house, but also ended up in a situation where there was like quite a bit of gear. I put together this spreadsheet, and it was just the gear that I had at the time. So not gear that had passed through my hands and stuff like that. But, you know, we're talking like a lot of money has been spent on this stuff. I did a video where I like looked at all of the amps that I bought in my life as a guitarist, and I thought that like came to about £40,000. Anyway, it's like a shocking amount of money that, you know, for me anyway, because part of it's for this channel, that I've spent on gear over the years. And this guitar kind of taught me an important lesson. This is my very first guitar, so I kind of wanted to do a video, you know, on partly this idea of like the gear trap, where it's important to spend some money sometimes, and how much you actually need, some of these kind of elements. So this is my very first guitar, or electric guitar, which I bought for 100 quid back in the 90s. It was an Ibanez Roadstar 2. Now, I recently did a video, this is thanks to the help of John Martin, had a bit of an overhaul, and he's got it playing nicely again. Monty's set of pickups in here, they're pre-65 retro wines, and John did me a new scratch plate for it, so this sat in my loft for like 20 years. The first guitar that I sort of played, I got a chance the other day because I had a midweek gig. I think it was like a Wednesday night, and I thought, let's try and gig that, and it was really great. There's one sort of thing which is like up here, it's the upper fret access isn't amazing, and also like because of the radius here, like it does get a little bit fretty outy. Other than that, it plays fantastically well. So the only thing is that it's a little bit on the stickier side because it's maple as well up here. So if you're doing like bends and stuff like that, it gets a little bit grippy feeling. But I would say, so this is the main thing for me about this. I was also playing in this intro my very first pedal that I bought, which again must have just come around here this sort of time. And it got me thinking, and this is a thing that we talked about quite a lot on the internet in general as well, like where should you spend the money if you've got money to spend on gear. So I think, so this is a Boss B5. Boss should, I think, consider reissuing something like this, because I think like just a straightforward analog multi-effect, they seem to be having a bit of a resurgence. The only issue with these really is because they're plasticky. Subscriber, I can't remember your name, sorry. You bought that Fender Custom Shop, sent me this one. But the outputs are like a little bit, because they're to a circuit board, they get a little bit intermittent. So if you hear some clicking, that's what that's from. But this was a multi-effect pedal from 1989, I think. I think Boss should definitely consider doing something like this again, because it's incredibly useful, I think. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you ever tried a Boss multi-effect. My first guitar, the thing I've found is that this guitar is great, plays very well now. This sounds really good. What's more important than any of these things is what you're plugging into, I think, in terms of tone. Just a very bog standard, like run-of-the-mill sort of Boss thing. The overdrive on there, nothing too crazy. The compressor on there, nothing too crazy, just, bog standard effects. But paired with a decent sounding amp, I think you get a good result. And now the amp doesn't even have to be that expensive. Like this Fender Deluxe Reverb, I think sounds as good, sort of pound for pound, as some much more expensive amps. I got that one for like 800 quid. One of the things that I've kind of learnt over the years, because I would have thought, pickups are pickups. This kind of, I always wondered whether that was worth the upgrade. But I would say that these Monty's pickups have really shown me that they are. So I would say if you've got a guitar that you're happy with to some extent, like if you like the way it feels, you like the neck, but if there's some elements that are not perfect, I would say that that's a really good candidate for taking to a tech, getting some work done, and maybe considering an upgrade in the pickups. And I think you might find that you might get a guitar that means a bit more to you and that has some sentimental kind of value. I like this idea rather than just buying a new guitar, and this is kind of what I've found. The same thing happened with this guitar, which has been a guitar that I put together myself, but again I took this one to Jeremy, who's another tech, and he's got this instrument playing to a stage where it's like one of my favourite Strats going, and this has a couple of Fender Custom Shop pickups in it. I think maybe that's what I've kind of come to the conclusion, like stick a decent set of pickups in a mid-level even guitar, and you get something that is pretty much going to be as good as it gets. Effects pedals, I think at any price point, are going to sound pretty much on par with even boutique stuff. You'll probably sound like disappointingly like you through pretty much everything, is what I found in that regard. And then, a little bit of money spent on an amp, sort of £1,000, you can get some really good results. I think just imagine what that rig would have cost altogether. So the Monty's pickups, I think sort of 250, sort of that sort of price range for a decent set of pickups. The guitar itself, you know, this was £100. I think, you know, £300-400 you can get them for now. This simple multi-effect, you know, you don't have to spend tons of money to get a rig that you're going to sound pretty good through, is what I've found. And, you know, certainly plugging here into Helix Native, that's kind of just what I've learned over the years, is that, you know, finding a guitar that suits you, that stays in tune, and then, you know, sticking a decent set of pickups in there can be a really great experience. And I think, you know, recently I got rid of a guitar that was much more expensive, that just wouldn't stay in tune, didn't suit me at all. I couldn't wait to get rid of it, essentially. Whereas this, I kind of taken for granted. It was in the house, you know, just sort of in total disrepair. Yeah, it's just given me a little bit of a fresh perspective. Like, instead of just buying another new guitar or whatever, you know, getting a guitar that you've already got back into playable condition, or into condition where it's better than it was before. I think there's certainly something really positive feeling about that, and especially if it's like your first guitar, like there's a sentimental thing built up in it. And I do think, yeah, if it is a guitar that suits you more or less, then I would strongly consider, like, is there a decent set of pickups that you could put in an ordinary guitar? Because this, to me, sounds as good as any of my other guitars at this point, and that is largely down to these Monty's pickups, right? Because, yeah, pickups do make a difference, is kind of what I consider to be actually the point now. Especially, I've played a few pickups that didn't work for me, that were maybe like a bit honky or whatever, whereas these are just like brilliant, spanky, dynamic. So I think it is worth putting some nice pickups in a ordinary guitar. You can get some pretty great results out of it, I thought. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and any lessons that you've learned for this gear stuff over time. It's not about the most expensive guitar that you've got, is also what I found. Like, for me, some of the time, it's more about that thing that you have a connection with, and a connection could just be that you've owned it for a long time and abandoned it and come back to it. Like, that's a story too, right? The prodigal guitar. Anyway, yeah, where would you rather spend your money? On the guitar, pickups, amp, pedals? Where do you think is most important? Love to know your thoughts in the comments. Cheers.